Now that you've made some annotations and have recorded some notes in your book, I wanted to show you how you take what you have written and what you have annotated. So I have mine right here. I have all of the annotations and notes that I have made inside of my text right here. I wanted to show you how you take those to figure out what's going on in the text. So whenever I think about how I did this, I kept track of who the characters are, added details about them. And like one of the things that I realized right here is that I thought that Mama Agba was a diviner and that she was called this Kosidon. I thought it meant she could no longer do magic. But as I was looking back in my notes, I reread kind of what I had highlighted in there and realized that she never could do magic. And that was one of the things that was really an important connection, that Mama Agba says that the girls are supposed to protect those that can't protect themselves. She's really going out on a limb for herself, because she could just ignore these girls' plight and be left alone by the tax collectors and the guards. But she is willing to do that to protect these girls that have no other way to, because their parents have been murdered, most of them. And so I took all of these things as I began writing and reading, and I kind of put these connections together and drew the connections that I finally figured out that one of the original questions I had is, who was Baba? And I found it was their father. And this kid named Zane, I think he's her younger brother, but I'm sure is her brother. So what we see here is that I now have a good understanding of who these people are. And what I can do now is I can begin to think about, and I begin writing about taking the notes that I have here and the annotations I have here and the notes that I've written. And I start thinking about, who is this about? What do they want? What's keeping them from getting that? And then with this book, there's lots of like cultural issues that are going on with the classes and the different clans that are going on. So I have to be able to take all of those things and put them together. So I decided to, in this one, it was kind of interesting. I was going to start out with Zelie, because she is the main character. But I realized that the way it begins really gives us a way to start out about where they are. And so I started talking about where these girls are in order to write my summary. And what I was able to make sense of is this here. I wrote it out, and then I decided to go ahead and type it out. And as I typed it out, I realized a lot more things that help bring clarity to what happened. So based on all of my notes, I can now begin to give the reader a picture of how the writer introduced all of these concepts for us, and a way that we can write a response to our writing. And this is something that I want you to do too. So you're going to think about who your characters are. And, you know, I've put some information in parentheticals here that help give you a little bit more information about what it is. So I just like to read what I've discovered about my text, because I want you to do the same thing whenever you submit your assignment about how you're making sense of the first chapter in your book. Remember that what we're really ultimately trying to do is we're trying to use these annotations to wonder about what's going on in the text, to confirm or correct my understanding of what happens in the text, or maybe perhaps what will happen in the future. And right here, it's really related to my personal purpose to figure out what in the world is going on in this text, and why does it matter. That as I'm reading, I'm trying to figure out and answer my own questions to make sense of who these people are and what's happening to them. And I'm going to have some ideas that are wrong. So I'm looking for places actively in the text that can help me answer those questions, or really fix some of the things that I thought originally. And particularly in fiction, you're looking for like fantasy especially, this is not America. This is not Africa, because it's about magic. Now, the author is using a lot of the details from the culture and an actual place and people, but there's elements in here that really are not really what we're accustomed to. So I have to build that world in my mind. And so I have to figure out what that is. So I'd like to share with you my understanding of how the author has built this world and what is going on so far. Mama Agba, an elder Kosidon, and I need to put a comma there because that's another appositive, a person who cannot do magic, runs a fake, gosh, I have too many typos, the Shaki, or clothing manufacturing shop. Several girls work there, but it's really a place where she can train these girls to protect themselves because they're descendants of murdered magi. Magic has died because their ancestors have abused magic. And I'm just thinking an aside, it's kind of hard of thinking your parents or your people of being people that are guilty. I think that would be very difficult. What I want to establish by sharing that piece of information with you is that in little people school, like whenever you were in elementary school and in middle school probably, a lot of the focus has been your personal connections to the text. Those are very important, and they are resources that help you comprehend the text. And we will go there with this text as well. But before you can do a lot of that, you have to understand what's actually in the text first. And so what I just made about, when I made the comment about it must be difficult to think about your own people as guilty or doing something wrong, that's a personal connection, a personal reflection. It shows that I'm empathizing with the characters in the book, and that's a good thing to do. But first I have to really make sure I can understand exactly what's going on before I can do a lot of that. And I will say that reading this again, I'm thinking more deeply and able to make those personal connections to the text because I've already done this hard work of understanding and figuring out what's going on in this world. Okay, so several girls work there at this clothing shop, but it's really a place where she can train the girls to protect themselves because they're descendants of the murdered magi. Magic has died because their ancestors abused the magic. Because of that abuse of the power, gods killed magic. The regular people that are left hate and fear these girls because of what the girls were meant to become, as Mama Agba explains. The king used the death of magic to murder their parents 11 years ago. Zili, who appears to be the main character, watched the king and his men murder her mother with a special metal that weakens magic and burns magi skin. It's called magicite, and that is one of the things that I recorded in my journal about the words that I'm collecting, because I think that that's going to be important. And they watched, and Keely watched her mother be hung in a tree. She was murdered. She watched her mother's murder, y'all. Mama Agba trains the girls to fight so they can protect themselves. In this chapter, Zili fights and wins over a girl named Yemi, who is a class above Zili. The fight is interrupted by some guards that come to extort more taxes from Mama Agba's shop. Everyone has to hurry and hide the fighting and pretend to be sewing the clothes. Zili almost ruins everything when she mouths off disrespectfully to the guards. I'm going to put that in here. Mouths off disrespectfully. And I'm remembering that there was a word in there. Mama Agba, after they leave, she calls her an Ode, O-D-E. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right. Calls her a fool because she brought so much attention to what was going on. After the guards leave, Mama Agba explains the history to the girls. She allows Zili to graduate, presenting her with a special staff with symbols that represent the war and heart of patience and tolerance, which reminded me of whenever we were looking at the beginning of this book. We saw this image, and so this means the war, and then something in here must be a symbol of the heart of tolerance. Maybe that's what these two pieces are right here. They look a little bit heart-like. They learn that they must fight with honor, even if their opponents, like the guards, do not. They are to protect those who cannot protect themselves and must follow an important mantra. It avoids rather than hurts. It hurts rather than maims. It maims rather than kills. The staff does not destroy. Mama Agba understands the pain Zelie uses to fight for her mother and reminds Zelie now that she knows how to win a fight, that she must also learn when to fight, like keeping her mouth shut when other people are around. So as the chapter ends, Zelie's brother arrives on the scene. His name is Zane, and he's got bad news. Something bad has happened to their father. So what I would like for you to do now is I would like for you to go back and look at your text. What can you highlight in terms of details, in terms of content, and ways that help you achieve your personal purpose for reading and understanding the world the writer has collected? And I want you to also look at your notes, and then perhaps the way in which you were tracing the character and maybe the vocabulary that you were collecting also, and construct a summary of what you were learning about that world. And then what we will do later is we'll come back to this and we'll look at this to really understand the deeper part of what does this mean and why does it matter. I look forward to seeing what you create.